Good morning. Welcome to live streaming with Active Life Infusion. Oh, I hope I'm in focus. It doesn't look like I am. Is that better? And no, that really doesn't look like I'm in focus, does it? Hopefully the camera will sort itself out in just a second. So we're doing yoga this morning. My name's Nikki, and today we're going to be looking at back bends. So little bits of kit that you might want to grab for yourself before we start. If you have an actual bolster, you could use that, but don't worry if you don't have one of those, because you can make one out of either just your yoga mat that you can roll up with maybe an extra towel or a blanket, or if you've got a really thick blanket or towel, you could just roll that up anyway, even if you haven't got a yoga mat. There's oh, that's better. It's coming to focus now. And if you've got either blocks and bricks or a couple of thick books, if you don't have those, they would be handy as well for when we do some of the work. So yeah, how are you doing today? Do give me a little hello on the live feed. I have to come really close to the screen to read it, I'm afraid. I can see there's people logging on now. And tell me what's going on with you, how you're enjoying the classes, etc. Anything that you'd like to do coming up, you can always request that as well. And I can have a look at that afterwards. Next week, we're going to do some sort of flow work, really. This is yoga for all, as you know. It's not a vinyasa class, but every now and again I like to do the introduction to vinyasa, which gives you the idea of how to link the poses together. But we won't be doing some of the harder aspects that you would do in a vinyasa class. Okay, so it's just for those that want to work a little bit harder, I would say, and to get the idea of how to link the postures together. So we've still got a few minutes yet before we go into class. Give other people the chance to log on. Do say hello, especially if I know you, because obviously I can see that there's people logged on, but I don't know who you are. Oh, morning, Amanda. Morning. Unless you say who you are, we have no idea who's actually looking. I get lots of messages later to say, oh, you know, I really enjoyed the class, but it's really nice for everybody to know that you're there while we're doing it live. So yeah, do give me a like or a hello. Little smiley face there from Amanda, that's good. Okay, so yeah, we're looking at back bends today. As I was saying a few minutes ago, for those that weren't here, if you've got a bolster like this one here, then you could use that. Some of these bolsters are quite large. And if you're a little bit stiffer or shorter like myself, then sometimes these can be a little bit fat. They're full of various things, either beads or buckwheat, etc. Most of them do have a zip, like you can see here, so you can wash the covers. And you could empty some of that out if it's loose inside, like in here it is. Or you could, you know, unpick the inner bag if it's one of those and reduce the size of it by emptying some out. Do keep them, because later you might find that you want it to be bigger when you've, you know, maybe gained a little bit of flexibility, or if you've got any issues going on like stiffer shoulders, etc. Sometimes we like to reduce down in size because it can be a little bit strong to get the full size bolster going. Hello for those that have just logged on. I can see a few more people coming in. Do say hi so I know who you are, if I can read it once I'm down onto the mat. Yes, we're looking at back bends today. And really what I want you to think about when we're doing back bends is keeping the length through the front of the body in particular. So some of the areas that might inhibit your back bending ability, what have we got here? Hello, Mary. Long time no see. Yep, I'm good, thank you. So some of the areas that might be stiffer are the shoulders, the hips, the thighs, and obviously the spine, okay? But other things that you might not think about is the stomach and the diaphragm. When we do quite strong back bends, if you're not used to stretching this area, then for some people it can make them feel a little bit sick, which is why we do lots of preparation when we're doing the back bends, particularly if you're not used to doing those, because then we're getting the idea of how to lengthen through here, lifting at the sternum, for instance, and keeping that tailbone tucked under. So yes, it's about bending the back, but it's really about stretching the whole of the front of the body, whether the arms are in extension or into flexion. And that will depend on the postures that we're looking at. So we're going to start off with a little warm up as normal. We're going to come down to the mat. So put all of your extra kit to one side, and once you're down onto the mat, the main thing is checking that you've got enough room to stretch the arms over the head and out to the sides. And then you can just relax the arms down towards the sides and just take a few breaths. Now you can see I've got my knees bent, and this helps the lower back to drop in towards the floor. It won't, necessarily be flat anyway, that doesn't matter, but you want to be able to relax through the abdomen, relax into the lower back. So if this is more comfortable with the knees bent, then just start like that. Breathing through the nose if we can. Just allowing the shoulders to sink down and the breath to become slower and deeper as you release into the pause between each breath. The heart rate settling. Maybe after a few breaths, if you've got the knees bent, you can slide the legs away flat and apart. And really feel the abdomen expanding each time you breathe in and drawing it downward as you breathe out. And then ready for an easy stretch. So as you breathe in, lifting the arms up towards the ceiling, exhaling them over the head. Have the legs together now. Deep breath in, point the toes, tighten the buttocks, stretching into your fingertips and softening as you breathe out. A second stretch when you're ready, flex the feet. Toes are up, push away into the heels, really lengthen. And again, releasing on the exhalation. And then you can bring the arms down, bending the knees and hugging the knees up to the chest, knees apart, nice little rock, side to side. So just massaging through the back and the hips. And then come to center, removing any socks. Place the feet down onto the mat, big gap between the feet. Take the arms wide, palms upward. Take a breath in, and as you breathe out, slowly drop the knees over to the right, keeping a decent gap between the feet and turning your head to the left. Allow the legs to feel heavy. Shoulders are sinking. Next inhalation back to center, and then exhale to the other side. On the inhalation to center, and then slide the left leg flat, hugging the right knee into the chest, and take the knee out to the side. So as always, you could keep a bent knee if you prefer, or stretching out the leg, and we're circling the leg, big circles, 3 each way. So if you've got a bent knee, you could guide the leg round if you like. Don't forget to breathe. Flexing the foot if you're very loose and you want that bit of extra stretch into the leg. Once you've done your 3 each way with that side, give it a wriggle out on the floor, and then we do the same on the other leg. Once you've done each side, give both legs a wriggle and then bringing the soles of the feet together, knees dropping apart, Supta Baddha Konasana. You can draw the heels towards the tailbone if that's comfortable, and then take the arms either just wide or sliding the arms closer to the head, depending on the flexibility in your shoulders, but you want to be able to rest the arms fully on the floor. And then focus back on the breath, the rise and fall of your abdomen. So particularly if you've got the arms raised towards the head, this opens out between the ribs, so the intercostal muscles are getting a bit more of a stretch. And it's really forcing the issue of working the diaphragm a bit harder. So each exhalation, feel that you're squeezing the belly button down towards the spine. And remember, we're not rushing to take the next breath in or out. At the end of the next exhalation, just slide the feet away along the mat. Give the legs a bit of a stretch. And then you can bring the arms down, bending the knees. Bring the knees back up to the chest. Again, a little rock if you like. And then you can roll over and come up to sitting. Okay, so as I mentioned, we're looking at back bends. And I also mentioned that it's not just about how flexible you are into the spine and the torso, shoulders, front of the shoulder or underneath the back of the shoulder can be a stiff area for a lot of people as well. So we're going to look at doing a bolster stretch now, a couple of bolster stretches where we're going to work on getting a little bit more stretch into those areas. Now these are passive stretches, so we're relaxing over the bolster, and then we'll come to doing some more active stuff a little bit later. So if you have the aforementioned bolster like this, I'm going to show you 2 ways. So if you've got a brick or a thick book, you could put the bolster at the head end of the mat. So wriggle out through if the bolster tends to be a bit, squashy in places like this one, then you want to lift up by the handle, put the fatter end at the head and lay it down so you've got the thinner end nearest to you. If it's the same all the way through, it doesn't matter. And then we're coming to sitting in front of the bolster and you would recline. Now, if you don't have a bolster like this one, you can make one out of a yoga mat or a blanket, or you can add the 2 together. So the easiest way is to fold the mat in half. Either lay the blanket or the towel onto here if you want to make it fatter, and then rolling it really tightly from the folded edge. Now it could be you've just got your bolster like this. If that's the case, you could use another block or a thick book. Now this is a thin yoga block, as you can see. If it was a standard one, that would be even better. And you just put it in front of your block and you lay the bolster on top of the 2. And this obviously gives it a little bit more height. So really you want to tailor it to how tall you are and how flexible you are. So if you are stiffer and shorter, Smaller the bolster, you could either just lay it on directly onto your original mat. If you're taller, more flexible, you can make it as large as you like. So I'm going to go with this size. And I'm reclining my spine down along the line of the bolster. Relaxing the arms just a little away from the sides. And have the legs however is comfortable for you. And then just breathe. So we're allowing the weight of the arms to drop back towards the floor. So we're getting a little bit of shoulder extension. As I say, it depends on, your frame size as well as the bolster size. But you can feel it stretching maybe across the chest and the front of the shoulder. And then just breathe. So it's already bringing us into a back bend, albeit passively. Matsyasana, the fish, would be this pose, and that's quite a strong active stretch with a lot of shoulder extension if you were doing the full pose. We're not doing that today. So we need to be able to breathe right down towards the base of the lungs. So you often hear the term diaphragmatic breath or breathing down into the belly. Now clearly you don't actually breathe into the belly, we're just trying to inflate the right down to the base of the lungs. And the air that we breathe is the gas, and it will go into any available space. So what we're trying to do here is to, as we breathe in, draw it right down so that it pushes the organs and intestines out the way, and that's why the belly rises. So on the exhalation, squeeze the abdomen down towards the spine, and then your abdominal muscles are assisting that exhalation and pushing down, pushing the organs back into place as the lungs deflate. And the more breath we can push out when we let that squeeze go and the air rushes back in, the abdomen will expand. You'll feel the lower part of the rib cage expanding too, and maybe out to the sides, because while we're over the bolster, the rib cage can't expand particularly into the back as it would normally. And after a few breaths, that becomes a little bit easier. So even if you're not progressing on to difficult back bends, this can be a good way to practice getting a deeper breath and to just get a little bit of extra stretch into the chest and the shoulder. If you spend your life sitting at a desk, or you tend to be a bit slouchy with your posture, then this can feel like it's a good way to start, correcting that opening out through the front of the body. So remember this one, because you can always come back to this if anything later is a bit too strong. You could also do this daily if you find it really restful or helpful to get that deep breath going, which has a calming effect on the body in itself. Now we're going to do an extra stretch while we're here, which will change the position with the shoulders and the rib cage. So you're going to bring the arms now across the chest. We've done this stretch before. And you're holding on to the opposite elbow with each hand. So while you're doing that, just notice which of your arms is the one on top, so palm downward. Doesn't matter which one it is, but we'll make sure we change it when we do it the second time. Now, if you know you've got shorter arms or a bit stiffer, it might be easier to slide the hands to mid-forearm or even the wrist. Then push the elbows up towards the ceiling. You can feel the stretch apart with the shoulder blades. And then take the arms as if they're going to go over the head. Even if you only go a little way like this, if you're able to go all the way over, then do. So it's increasing that back bend, lifting the ribs, opening out more with the intercostal muscles, stretching through the stomach. You might better feel that. Working the diaphragm a bit harder. And obviously it's bringing a nice bit of shoulder flexion in. So very useful preparation if you're looking at inverted back bends. And now only the ribs at the base of the rib cage can move, the floating ribs. So it's really important to work the abdominal muscles to squash out the exhalation. Then slowly bring the arms back over the chest. And we're going to change the grip so the other arm is the one on top, because it's going to change what's happening with the shoulders. And then again, push the elbows towards the ceiling and over the head. See how that feels. Again, a few more breaths. But anytime I'm holding any of these stretches too long for you, particularly if you have shoulder issues, then, don't wait for me to say come out. Just release the arms whenever you need, down by the sides. And then slowly bring the arms back over the chest. And just as slowly relax the arms again by the sides, because that can feel a bit strong in the shoulders. And just take a couple of breaths. Now, the longer you stay in a bolster stretch like this, where it's just passive, you're relaxing over it, the more important it is to remember how to come out so that you don't feel any pinching. So we're going to bend the knees. And then you're going to roll to one side. It doesn't matter which side, as long as you take the arm with you as you roll off the bolster to the side and then push yourself up to sitting. Well done. Okay, so we're going to use the bolster again now. So this time we want to make sure that we're getting lots of stretch into what's potentially the stiffest part of your spine. Okay, so the thoracic section where the rib cage is attached. It's a different shape to either the lumbar and to the cervical part of the spine. The bones have different functions, whether it's twisting or bending more. So they have different shapes. So this part where the rib cage is attached doesn't twist so readily, and therefore we can't get as much movement necessarily. So we want to try and get a bit of length so that when we do our back bend, we don't get excess movement below and above those two areas, and it doesn't become more of a kink in your spine, but a nice long curve. Okay, so because it's a bit stiffer, we potentially want to reduce the size of the bolster. Now, we do that in two ways. You wouldn't empty one out necessarily, okay? So you could use your fatter bolster as you did before, but then you may need a cushion, a brick or a block to put underneath your head, because the head won't necessarily go all the way over down to the floor, and we don't want it dangling and you getting straight into your neck. So I'm going to use the smaller one. Now, if you're very tight, better for you that you use your mat across the width of the area that you're using, so across your other mat if you have two. And you want to make sure that you can feel the bolster underneath the bottom of the shoulder blade, so it's directly below the chest when you lie down. So when you take the arm out to the side, the bolster should be below the line of the arm. That's the important thing to check. And you don't want to be hunching up with the shoulders. There's space at the neck. If you're more flexible and you don't have one of those larger bolsters, you could put a block underneath your smaller bolster to make it bigger. But if you're then having to use a brick, there's no point, okay? So when we come to lying down, you want to sit in front, check that it's at the base of the shoulder blades. As I say, you're releasing the head back to the floor. Okay, if it won't go to the floor, as I say, take out the block. You could use a brick like this if you're on the floor with the bolster, or the larger bolster. If you're a bit more flexible, your head goes to the floor and the arms out to the sides. So you check that bolster is below the line of the arms. It is for me here. If you have more flexibility in the shoulders, you could slide the arms up towards the head, and then you're at full stretch. The arms are rested on the floor, as is the head. And then you can really feel this stretch through the center line of the body. And just breathe. This is also abducting the shoulder blades towards the back. Remember, they are slightly curved and they move around the rib cage. And if you're quite slouchy, they tend to wing out at the back. This is pushing them back in towards the spine. And also now it's very unlikely there's much movement with the rib cage in your back when you breathe. So you feel all of the movement here down into the abdomen. So it may feel a bit tight as you inhale. So the key is squeezing the breath out as you exhale. You may feel movement into, as I say, the floating ribs at the base of the rib cage here. Now you may not want to hold this stretch as long as the other one because it isn't as comfortable by any means. But it's really useful if you tend to be stiffer and if you're going to be doing the stronger stuff. It's also good for training, having the head, slightly inverted because the head's dropping right back, which for some people, again, can feel a little bit unusual. So 2 more nice deep breaths. And then we come out exactly the same way as we did before by bending the knees first and slowly rolling to the side, which may feel quite strong as you come up. Okay, so just give you a moment to do that. Now, if this was your main mat that you were using as a bolster or an additional mat you've got for padding for knees, you might want to open that out again now. So my knees are not what they used to be, so I like a little bit of extra padding. And then we're going to look at stretching into the hip flexors and the quads. Okay, so making sure that you've got enough padding for your knees, we're going to come up to kneeling onto the mat. You could always use an extra pad underneath the knee if you need it. So we're kneeling on one knee and you're going to stride forward with the other leg, and then we're sinking the hips forward and down, thinking about the chest staying in the upright position. Oh, need a little bit of feedback there. We're sinking the hips down. Okay, so the side that we're stretching is this back leg side. So you may be able to feel it here through the front of the thigh and into the hip, but it's also stretching iliopsoas, which is inside of the body. So if you went through the stomach towards the spine, it's attaching, as I say, down this sort of area for the spine, and then inside of that back leg thigh. So it's getting a good stretch. Again, it's passive stretch because we're sinking the hips forward and down, and gravity is just doing the work for you. So you could take the arms out to the sides. That might be strong enough for you. If you're okay, turn the palms upward and then bring the arms as high upside the head as you can. And then imagine touching the wall behind you with your fingertips, maybe lifting the chin slightly. Anjaneyasana, crescent moon. And just breathe. Keep working the abs. Okay, ready to come out. We're bringing the arms down and then we're going to change legs. So ready for the other side. So we're sinking the hips forward and down. It may feel different this side. So I've got more or less a vertical shin here for stability. Spreading my toes. Keep breathing. Sternum is elevated. Looking straight ahead. When you're ready, you can take the arms wide. Keep the shoulders down and back. And then if you want more, turn the palms up and reach up towards each other. And then back. So we're stretching and lengthening, lifting the chin, and breathe. And slowly release. Hands are coming down. And then we're changing sides. Okay. So ready to add on just a little bit. So we're sinking the hips. Again, you can feel that stretch through the back leg. Now this time we're going to either stretch forward with the other arm or keep the hand onto the knee. And we're going to work into this back leg a little bit more. So a bit of shoulder extension. We're taking the arm behind. I've got my palm facing inward and I'm squeezing that shoulder back. Now the temptation here when you bring up that back foot like this is to rise onto the knee. So we want to keep sinking down and see if we can touch the foot with the hand. Might be able to feel the hamstrings working at the back here. Good, good. And release. Okay, let's try that on the other leg, which of course may feel very different. So we're sinking. Get the stretch going first. Have the arm either forward or hand on the knee. Other hand reaching behind, palm facing inward. And when we're ready, bringing up that back foot. Maybe we can touch. Keep sinking. Watch out for cramp. Keep breathing. So we're not holding that back foot because then it wouldn't be so much of an active stretch. And slowly release. Well done. Then come to sitting and just give the knees a little wriggle out. Roll out through the legs. Okay. Now, one of the other things that we want to think about when we're doing back bends is how we activate our back bends. And getting that hip extension, we would be working the glutes, the buttocks, gluteus maximus. Okay, so now we're going to lie down onto the mat, face down. And we're going to think about doing a simple version of Salamba, the locust. So you're going to bring the arms in front. Now, if you've got glasses on, you might want to take those off. And you're resting your forehead down onto your hands. I'm sorry if this is squealing a bit this morning. It sounds like it. Okay. So once we're here, because of gravity being on your back, we don't want too much pressure into the lower back. So I want you to tighten the abs and notice the tailbone tucks under as you do that. So we're shortening between the pubic bone and the navel. And then tighten through the front of the thigh, the quadriceps, to straighten the legs. And then as we work the glutes, the buttocks, the legs should lift away from the floor, straight from the hip. And just breathe. So we're loading the weight of the legs onto the buttocks and the lower back. Good. One more breath. And releasing down. Just take a resting breath or so. Let everything soften. You could always wriggle the hips side to side. Just to loosen into the back. And then we're going to try that again. So we tighten the abs. Tuck in the tail under. Tighten the quads. Straighten the legs. And then the glutes to lift the legs. Watch out for over pointing the toes because that can give you cramp. We're just extending the front of the ankles. Good. And then releasing down. Just turn the head to one side. Take a couple of resting breaths. As I say, you can wriggle out the hips if you feel it quite strong into the lower back. Now, when we do this again, we've got choices of adding on and making it that little bit stronger, okay? So the choices now, I'm going to come up so you can see my arms, are cactus arms, okay? So you think about the elbow being as high as the shoulder, and as you do that, you're squeezing the shoulders back so you can feel the rhomboids and trapezius drawing the shoulder blades in towards the spine, but try not to hunch up around the neck, but pushing down. Okay, so this would be the position that we come to next. And if that's too strong, you bring the arms down by the sides and just feel like you're reaching towards your feet. Okay, so back to our starting position here, but we're going to have the arms, elbows out the same width as the shoulder, or the same line as the shoulder. So starting again, thinking about the abs, so tighten the abs, then the quads, then the glutes to lift the legs, and then lifting the elbows away from the floor and the chest. Head in line with the spine. Keep breathing. If it's too strong, take the arms back down by the sides and just breathe. If you're okay, keeping the arms wide. Sorry about the squealing. And then releasing back down to the floor. And just take a breath. Okay, ready to try that once more? So, tighten the quads, abs, and then the glutes. Lifting the chest, the arms, and breathe. Good for strengthening. One more breath. And releasing down, turn the head opposite side to last time. Okay, just prop yourself up on your elbows so you can see me. Now, ultimately with this stretch, we want to try and get that curve through the body. Now, the arms, we don't think of as weighing too much, but obviously they do weigh quite a lot. And it obviously depends on the length of all the proportions of your body, your arms, your legs, your torso, as to how high you're getting, as well as how strong and flexible you are. So this time, we're going to start off here like we did before. We're going to lift up. And if you feel okay, you can reach forward. Now you can see that my arms are heavy because it makes the front of the body drop down. If it feels too strong, you bring it back. Or you can do either. Exhale, inhale, as we work. Okay, so when you're ready, get the arms in position. Make sure you're thinking about the abs working, quads working, and then the glutes. Lifting the arms. Either that static hold or reach forward. Exhale. Inhale. Squeeze it back with your breath. Two more. And then releasing down. Well done. Now take the hands back, either side of the rib cage, palms down. Tighten the abs. Push yourself up to hands and knees. Widen the gap between the knees and then slowly sink back. You could rest your head on the crossed arms in front, or full pose of the child, whatever's more comfortable for you. And then slowly coming up. Very good. Okay, so, swallowing my hair. Now we need to have a brick or a couple of books if you don't have those. And we're going to look at supported bridge. So if you want to watch me just for this one, if you're not familiar. Now with bridge, there's lots of variations and they all come from the shoulder stand sequence, which I don't tend to teach. Mainly because I don't think, so many people's necks like to go in that direction. But also because not everybody has a full set of kit, and it's really important to have the right props if you're not so flexible to do it safely. So we're going to just do a little aspect of it, and that's why we're going to be using the brick for some part of it. Now, when we use the brick, if it's a brick like this, clearly you've got the lowest level, secondary, and then the top level. And this is quite high if you tend to be as short as me, and if you're less flexible through the quads and the front of the hips. okay, as well as if you've got any stiffness in the back. So I find bridge really quite hard to do. So don't worry if you do. Some people do it really easily and really lovely, okay, and if that's you, great, okay, but don't worry if you're not so flexible. So we're going to make sure the feet are close in towards the buttocks, and you want the feet about hip distance apart. I'm spreading my toes, my feet are flat, and the main reason for bringing the feet in close enough is so you can get enough push up, okay, because if the feet are too far away, it just feels like you're straining. However, if you've got very long legs, lots of flexibility, I wouldn't pull the heels right into the buttocks and the knees pointing forward of your feet, because that can start to pull on your knees for a lot of people and it doesn't feel so great. Okay, so we have the break where we can reach it easily. If you've got a couple of books, then you're just going to be sliding maybe one on top of the other. Absolutely fine. So we take a breath in. And as you breathe out, you want to tighten through the abs and push the small of the back into the floor. Inhale, we're lifting up, pressing into the feet. And of course, this is working the buttocks to get that hip extension. It's working it, stretching it through here and the quads, whether you feel it or not, because we're working through the back here. So it's good work for hamstrings as well. Then your brick or your books, you could slide in at either the low level or medium level, or if you're very flexible, as I say, going to the top level. It should be under the hard bit at the back of the pelvis, not at the small of your back. And then you rest your body weight onto it and just relax the arms. Setu Bandha bridge, okay, supported bridge in this case. And we just breathe. So we're tucking the chin in. The back of the neck is long. It's really important to be on the shoulders, not just on the back of the head whenever you do any bridge variation. And we're relaxing the arms. Now this is a semi-inversion because the head is below the line of the heart. So therefore it encourages a deeper breath without too much strain. All of the contents of your abdomen now pressing down towards the base of the lungs. So we have to work a little bit harder as we breathe in to push the organs and intestines out of the way, and as the lungs inflate. So it's good exercise in that way. And it can feel quite restful. So the shoulders are flat at this point. Now, for most people, if they're at the stage 1 or 2 of the brick, you're not going to get full stretch in the front of the hips and the thighs. So we're going to extend this pose. Now, if you're on the top edge of your brick, the very highest point, make sure that you feel stable when you do that. And no matter which, height of brick you've got, if it feels too high, you need to reduce down or come out of the pose back to what we're doing now. So I'm just going to reduce mine down by 1 notch. Okay, I'm going on to the flattest level of the brick because this is where I prefer to do it to start off with, unless I'm really warmed up. So I'll give you a moment just to do that if you want to, just to reduce down a level. And then we're going to slide or move one leg away along the line of the mat, and then the other one. If it feels like you're falling off your brick or you need to adjust the position, bring the feet back to the floor and do that. Relax through the legs, and you may feel more of a stretch now through the front of the thigh and the hip. Again, it's a passive stretch, but it just feels nice, this stretch here. If it feels okay, you could take the arms closer to the head or right over the head if you're a little bit looser there. And breathe. Deep breaths. When you had a few breaths and your body's used to the stretch, you may think, I might be able to do a bit more. So you could bring the feet back in, and maybe you want to go back up again onto a little bit higher. Brick being lower is better than it being too close towards the small of the back. One more breath. And then bring the arms down if you've got the arms raised. And one at a time, bring the feet back in. And then we're going to slowly push up just enough so we can slide the brick out. Hold the position. And then slowly round the spine down into the floor. Now, depending on how you feel, you might want to stretch the legs out or bring the knees onto the chest and have a little rock side to side. Okay. Bring the feet back to your basic bridge position. And we're going to change that just to be a little bit more active. Okay, so we've got the arms down by the sides. We take a breath in, and as you exhale, push the small of the back into the floor. Inhale, lifting hips up, back into your basic bridge. And you should be able to feel that the buttocks are working hard. Now, even with this active version, some people come very high. It can be to do with strength into the buttocks, but for a lot of people, it's tightness into the hips that will stop them coming that bit higher. That's my issue, is the tightness at the front. So to make sure we're working the buttocks and the hamstrings nicely, we're going to switch one side on and then off. Okay, so I'd like you to relax through the left buttock, and you'll feel the left side of the pelvis drop down slightly. So work really hard with that right side. Inhale, work both sides, and then exhale, relax right side, and you feel that drop down a little bit. Okay, with the breath now, inhale, lift up both sides, exhale, relax other side. Keep it going, alternate sides. And this way, as you engage both sides at the center, because you've made the one side work hard when it was working on its own, you will get more height overall at the center. Next time you relax right side, make that the last one, then keep pushing up at center. Try tucking the shoulder blades under now. Get a little bit more height through the thoracic section, chin tucking in as the chest rises towards the chin. If that hurts the neck, then obviously just flatten the shoulders again. And then next exhalation, again flatten the shoulders and round the spine down into the floor. So you may want to stretch the legs away or hug the knees up, depends on you. And just take a few breaths. Just roll the head slowly, one side and then the other, just to loosen off into the neck. And then slowly coming up to sitting. Very good. Okay, now we're going to come up to standing for our last couple of back bends. And lots of variety with back bends, as you can imagine. And often we do ones down onto the mat. So I'm going to do a couple of standing ones today. So you want to make sure that you've got enough room. I'm just going to move one of my mats so that you can see me from the front and from the side when we're doing these. So to start off with, we're going to look at Warrior 1, Virabhadrasana 1. Very common back bend that we would do in our yoga class. So as we're standing in Tadasana, you can see I've got a little bit of a gap between my feet. So when I stride forward, for my lunge for warrior one. You want to make sure that you're striding in the same line that I'm standing in now, not crossing the feet one in front of the other, because it's very wobbly and not correct. Okay, so we're going to take a reasonable stride forward with one foot and then bending through that front knee. Okay, so you can see both of my hips are pointing forward. Now my back foot currently is on the ball of the foot. Now it's not wrong to have either the ball of the foot there or the heel dropping in like so. What's the difference it makes is what's happening with the hips. We want the hips to remain pointing forward. So if when you drop that back heel in, if that's what you're going to do because it feels more stable, if the hips turn like this, there's a couple of things that we can do to stop that happening, okay? So the first thing is to make the stride forward less long, okay? Because it means that you're a little bit tighter. Second thing you can do is move the front foot wider. So you can see my hips are still pointing forward now, even though my back heel is in, so it's more stable. For those that are more flexible, you'll be able to go longer, a bit narrower maybe with the feet. And even if you drop that heel in, it doesn't make any difference to you what's happening with the hips. If you feel stable with the ball of the foot there, you get a good stretch in that back leg, you can stay like that. So we're lifting at the sternum. We can take the arms wide if you feel that's better for you, particularly if you've got any high blood pressure issues, then you could keep the arms just at the heart height. If you're okay, reaching up, lifting the chin, keep working the abs, and imagine we're reaching behind. So if the elbows are bending to get the hands in closer, better that you take the arms wider. Okay, so you can really open out across the chest, get that nice back bend going. Next exhalation, bring the arms down and inhale, step forward. Okay, let's try that on the other leg. Now, although we're just switching legs, it affects the whole body. So, you know, if you've got a stiff back, and maybe that's only on one side, make the stride appropriate for you on each side. Okay, so as before, either arms wide or up. We're lifting the chest, reaching behind, keep working those abs, pushing towards the back heel, so nice straight leg at the back. Keep breathing. So your drishti, your gaze, is elevated also. Good. Exhale, arms down. Inhale, we step forward, paddle out through the legs. Now I'm going to do that from the side because there's a couple of things I want you to think about. So if you take one hand onto the front of your pelvis and one onto the back, when we do back bends, we're trying to have a posterior tilt. So that we tuck under, so the tail is down. So the lumbar region is long and the abdominal region is engaged, okay? What tends to happen with warrior one in particular is that we get the anterior tilt, particularly people like me who have a tendency for a sway back. So your natural way of standing is to stick your bottom out a little bit. Okay, so we're trying to keep those abs tucking under. It's more difficult because we've got a leg going behind. Okay, so as I mentioned before, the stiffer you tend to be, hip flexors, the shorter the stride should be to be able to keep that engagement. So you take your stride. Now, because flexibility through the body isn't equal, okay, between arms, legs, body, etc., all areas may be different. So I often see people taking a really big stride for their warrior one. And, you know, once we get the arms up, it can look really good because they're reaching back like this. But actually, if you were looking at me closely here, I've let that tilt go. So what I really need to do is tighten the abs and draw back, okay? If I couldn't do that, it would mean I would be leaning forward if I was too stiff, okay? So make it appropriate stride for you and keep those abs working. If you feel wobbly, remember, take the front foot wider. Next exhalation, arms down. Inhale, step forward. Okay, let's do that on the other leg. So appropriate stride. And again, I've got my knee more or less over my ankle for stability. Chest and hips facing forward. Arms where you can cope with the extra effort. Imagine I'm trying to reach behind, lifting the chin to follow the line of the spine, and breathe. Next exhalation, arms down. Inhale, step forward. Good. Paddle out through the legs. Okay, so we did back bends a few weeks ago. I think it was just coming up to Christmas, and we looked at Nataraja, our dancer pose. So we're going to look at that again. Now, dancer, if we were doing it in its entirety, would be very strong, and I don't teach it that way because I can't do it that way myself. If I see someone in my classes, they're not really flexible and they could do it, then obviously I'm going to, take it forward for them, but I can't see you. So we're just going to do it to a certain level today. So again, we're standing with the feet a little bit apart. Now, this is a balance. So if you know you tend to be wobbly, having the thinnest mat you can is better. I've got 2, but I'm on a hard floor. So if you're on the carpet, you might want to work just onto the carpet. Okay. So we're stepping forward, just a small stride, and I'm just taking all the weight now onto that front foot. So my toes, you can see, are just touching the mat behind. I've got my hands on my hips, but you could have the arms wide if you need it. And breathe. Now lift here at the sternum, lengthening all the way up through the body, and lift the chin very slightly, but look ahead at something that's not going to move, and just breathe. So I've got my toes just touching the floor behind, but all the weight on my front foot. Now if I can, squeeze the buttock on the back leg, and the leg moves back so the foot comes away from the floor, as it did when we were down on the mat earlier. Ooh, I'm wobbling today. Okay, and then bring it back. Good. Paddle out the legs. Let's do the other side. So we're coming forward. All the weight on the front foot, toes just touching behind. We're lengthening up. Keep breathing, lifting the chin. Keep working the abs. And then squeeze that back leg buttock. So the leg is just drawn back away from the floor. We're balancing on that front foot without leaning. Remember, you can have the arms wide. That will help. Smiling also helps. And then bring it back. Okay, paddle out the legs. So when we did our locust, when we were lying on the floor and we lifted the leg, it's the same feeling, that hip extension. It's just being drawn away by working the buttock. Okay, so I'm going to do it from the side. And we're going to do the same thing again, but add in the arms. So we're stepping forward, one foot, all the weight on the front foot, my toes just touching behind. We're going to bring the arms first now. So we come forward and up with the arms if we can. Shoulder level out to the sides if that's too much for your heart rate. And then keep working the abs and squeeze that back leg buttock so the leg comes away from the floor. Keep breathing. Next exhalation, stepping back, release the arms. Well done. Paddle out. Don't worry about any wobbles. Okay, other leg. So all the weight on the front foot, lift up through the chest. Arms coming up now. So you can see there's a back bend there already. Reaching behind, then squeezing that back leg buttock. Keep breathing. And slow release. Good, good. Paddle out through the legs. Now, the lower back here, you may feel that that's worked really hard. So if you take the feet wide apart like this, I'm just going to soften the knees and bend over and just wriggle the bottom side to side. This can give a little bit of relief into the back. And then slowly coming up. Paddle out through the legs. Okay. Now, we won't have enough time today, sadly. Time always races away to do the full pose today, but we can look at that another time when we're looking at balances. So, as remember, next week, we're going to look at introduction to vinyasa. Okay, it's not too strong a class. We're just taking it nice and slow, but we're going to finish off with a twist, and then we're going to go straight into relaxation. So if you want to come down to your mat, lying on your back, again, check you've got enough room out to the sides. And we're going to bring the knees up to the chest. So we normally do this twist in the warm-up, but I save it for the end when we do back bends because it feels nice to release. So I want to take the arms wide, palms up, take a breath in, and as you breathe out, take both knees to the right, really tucking the knees up towards the arm and hold above the floor if you get all the way down as well. Inhale, we're coming back. Exhale, other side. Follow your breath, do that once more, each side. Now today for our relaxation at the end, we're going to be seated. So coming back up to sitting, you could use a block to sit on or your folded blanket, towel, even your bolster. I don't mind how you have the legs. Wrap a little blanket around you or use your jumper if you like. And then we're just sitting tall. Feel the crown of the head reaching for the ceiling, and then slightly relax the tailbone down. We don't want to be overarching with the lower back. Closing the eyes, relaxing the hands, and just breathe. Again, focusing on the exhalation. Back bends can be quite energizing. So we're just trying to steady the heart rate, sinking and softening with the exhalation. And then through the nose, nice long deep breath in. Through the nose, a full deep breath out. Bring the hands together, prayer position, heart center. Inhale, stretching up, now look up. Exhale, wide and down with the arms. Keep the back tall, just tuck the chin in, drop the shoulders. Last stretch, arms wide, inhale, reach it up. Palms together, exhale to heart center. Namaste. Very good. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you if you're watching later on playback. And I will see you again next week at 10 o'clock. Remember, there's a little button down just below the screen. You can subscribe so you never miss a class. And hopefully I'll see you again. Thank you. Nice to see you, Mary. I was thinking about it the other day. Bye-bye.